Hi, everyone. We're going to talk a little bit about role play scenarios here. So, with assessment and talking about skills assessment in particular, a lot of times you're teaching communication skills or social or self help skills. Your supervisor might utilize role plays to teach these skills. Understanding what the role plays kind of look like and how you can help could be helpful in this field. So that's why I added this section. So we're going to talk about that. So assist with it. So if you are engaging in a role play with a client, you want to make sure that you sort of have a couple things ready and you know what you're doing. Make sure that the people you're working with know that we're doing a role play. And we're going to work out real life or hypothetical situations. We're also going to talk about the benefits of role play, provide a safe environment to practice, model, and refine the behavior. It's going to help learners generalize skills to real life. Your role might be to set the scene, model the expected behavior, encourage participation, give positive feedback, and gentle corrections. Occasionally, when a behavior tech gets very competent, they might be more involved in planning role plays, but typically your supervisor will do that for you. They direct you on exactly what you're doing. And so things that you might do is asking for help, dealing with peer conflict, following directions, practicing job interview skills. So all of those could be role plays, and those would all be very helpful to do as a role play before someone might have to do that particular skill in the natural environment. So what is a role play? A teaching strategy where we act out what it is. Occasionally, you might have them role play with a peer who's really competent in the area, and they might role play with you. So you might act as the other person. It provides a safe environment, allows for practice, modeling, and refinement of behavior. Now, why role plays work so well is the immediate feedback and correction. So participants can receive immediate feedback in the moment. So when you're in the natural setting and say like someone comes up and starts talking to you for social skills, and the person they're talking to wants to engage but doesn't know how, they're not going to get feedback in the moment from a behavior tech or a trainer. They might get natural feedback from the person, like they walk away, which tells them like, hey, they didn't like that. But they're not going to get that feedback with how they can do better unless it's in a role play. And that's kind of the magic of role play. Common applications, social skills training, behavior intervention planning, and staff development. Most of your training should be a lot of role play. Your supervisor or someone else should act like the client, and you should also be involved in role play so you get really good at the therapy. It's one of our best training tools. Why do you want to do this? It helps them generalize the skills to real life situations. It reduces anxiety by preparing for challenging interactions. Practices difficult conversations or situations through role play can reduce stress and build confidence. It improves confidence, problem solving, and communication. It supports skill acquisition through repetition and rehearsal. Repeated practice of target skills through role play can help solidify learning and promote long-term retention. It's really one of the best ways to do it. I mean, we don't just use this in ABA. There's applications everywhere in all fields almost. We're using this, but it is sort of the step before someone might do the skill in the actual environment. And it's a super important part of that. So as a support person, you're supporting your supervisor or running a role play with your client. So you explain the scenario clearly and simple, then you model the expected behavior. So you demonstrate the desired actions that they need to engage in. You don't want to put anyone on the spot if it's like a group situation or even if it's one-on-one. You want to make it inviting. If they resist, then they're not ready. You want to back up a bit and maybe go back to teaching them why it's important. And then also you might want to make sure it's important to them as well. Sometimes we're trying to make clients do things that they don't wanna do. Most of the time, if you go back to the assent and what we talked about assent, that's probably not gonna work. Like, they're not gonna do it. How important is it? Is this a safety skill that they have to learn, or is this just something that people are telling you they should learn? Is there something else more important to them? You wanna give reinforcement when they engage in the skill well and corrective feedback. So telling them exactly what they did wrong and how they can do better. You wanna keep it really supportive, so maintain a non-judgmental, learning-focused environment. Common role play scenarios like asking for help in class or at work. So practice politely requesting assistance from your college peers, teachers, or colleagues. Dealing with peer conflict, role play ways to communicate concerns, compromise, and resolve disagreements as peers. Following multi step directions, listening attentively, and completing a sequence of instructions. Politely declining something, practice saying no respectfully while maintaining a positive relationship. Using coping strategies during frustration, demonstrate taking deep breaths, counting, or other self regulation techniques. And then practicing job interviews or customer service. Role plays are common throughout ABA and everything, but with job skills, the number one way you're going to teach is through role play scenarios. Occasionally, we do role plays as part of the assessment too. That's why it's in this section. The role play as part of the assessment tells you where the person's skill is so you can build goals for them. So sometimes a lot of those assessments, it's like, oh, how are their social skills? The assessment might ask you, can they do this? And so to figure out whether they can or can't do that, you might role play it with them to see. How do you structure a role play? Set the objective. We want to clearly define the specific skill or behavior that the role play aims to practice. Describe the situation. Make sure it's clear, concise, and any contextual information. You can use visual aids or scripts. Then you assign the roles. Make sure everyone knows their role, such as the learner, peer, teacher, or observer, and act it out. See how it goes and see how people engage, and then you review and reflect. So after role play, facilitate a discussion to identify what went well, and then you repeat. You might do that again. In an assessment specific, I'll give you a better example of that. These assessments might ask a communication question like, can they respond to an open-ended question? So you might engage in role play with the student or client to see if they can or cannot engage in that. So you'll start asking them questions, kind of mark whether they're able to engage in those questions or not. Can they take turns? You might pull out a game and play a game with them to see if they're able to take turns successfully. So you're going to utilize role plays to see where their skills are. You want to make it fun and engaging, or they're going to lose interest and not really work with you. And then use age-appropriate and meaningful scenarios. Ensure the scenarios are relevant to the learner. Use props or visual aids to enhance, you want to make it as real as possible. And then vary the scenarios over time to prevent memorization. So when you're using this to teach, you want to make sure you're always using a variety of things or the role plays. Otherwise, they just get used to one scenario and they know exactly what to do in this one scenario. But in real life, it's not like that. It's not perfect every time. Always debrief afterwards to reinforce learning. Practice, not performance. Role play is a chance to try it, not test to pass. So even within making mistakes, we have a lot of learning going on. In fact, when they do role plays perfectly, it's like they probably don't need to work on this. And that's part of the assessment process. When they struggle within the role play, that's where the learning's gonna occur. Mistakes are always learning opportunities. Mistakes during role plays are the best. I can't tell you how excited I get when we're doing role play and it's getting very realistic and they start fumbling. Perfect. Now I have this very realistic situation that we can talk through. And then when they're out in the real world and that realistic situation happens, they'll know what to do. Progress happens through repetition. So it's something that we do have to do repetitively for learning to occur. And then encouragement and feedback matter. So making it positive and positively supporting them is a huge part of this.